Good afternoon, you guys. Today, Dr. Kim and I are going to be discussing signs that you're moving forward or backwards in your marriage. So, Dr. Kim, what are some signs that a marriage is moving backwards?
Yeah, I think when couples, just thinking of us, when you argue more, when you're just not having fun together, not spending quality time together, and you're just not enjoying your marriage like
Yeah.
maybe you did at one time or you wanted to enjoy. And so I think that way, then you're not connecting. And we talk about connecting and not, but when you're really not connecting, and I think we do that by everybody argues, but by resolving those, and having fun together and all those kind of things. If those aren't happening, you're going to move backwards because you don't just stand still in a marriage. You either move forward or backwards. And
Mhm.
so our goal has always been to try to move forward, even if it's a baby step to try to move forward. And if we move backward to try to catch it, get back on the right track.
Yeah. And so, kind of the opposite of that, what are some signs that we're moving forward in our marriage?
Yeah, I think if you feel like, we talk a lot about teamwork. You feel like you're on a team, you're really enjoying life together. And even though you may be going through a hard time, but you feel like you're handling it well together. There's times that, when we've gone through difficult times, you can really move a marriage forwards or backwards then. But you can really grow your marriage through hard times if you work together on it and you're praying together about it and you're solving problems together and all those kind of things. So feeling connected and doing those things that keep you connected, you're going to move forward in that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that one. I think that some of Ben and I's harder times they've really brought us closer together because it's like, okay, we can either sit here and we can like be on opposite teams and we can argue and we can fight and we can, like make each other both unhappy, or we can come together, we can sit down and we can be like, okay, this is going to affect both of us. How do we want to handle this? And I think that that has truly helped us more than anything else.
Yeah, it's so easy to make your spouse your enemy.
It
And
really is. It's crazy.
and you just gotta stop and think, we are really on the same team. We're not in a boxing match,
Yeah.
duking it out. We're trying to
Yeah.
stand together and do
Yeah.
things. And I don't know why we do that. I don't know, but I think the more you break that pattern and realize we're in this together, then you really grow your marriage during those times, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah, and kind of going off of what you just said, if we are moving forward or backwards in our marriage, when does change truly start? Do you think it starts in our minds, or do you think it starts with our actions, or do you kind of think it's both?
I think it starts in your mind. I think it does how you view your spouse. If
Okay.
you're viewing your spouse as your enemy, if you're viewing your spouse as they don't understand, if you're viewing your spouse as whatever it is negative, I think you want to begin to turn that around. And I think it starts with a conversation with your spouse, and maybe it's just saying, "Hey, this is what I felt. I want to change that." But a lot of it is just that maybe something happened, and so you interpret it a certain way, and then you just keep that negative thought going around instead of in spot positive ones. I was talking to an author, Margaret Feinberg, today, and she was talking about in their marriage when they have an argument, the one who comes to say they're sorry also has to say three positive things about their spouse. And I love that because
Me
it's like
too.
not only is it because sometimes you go and you go, yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
like you did when you were a kid, really sorry you hit your
Yeah.
sister. You just have
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
And so, but to take it, and she said some of mine not really from the heart sometimes because I'm not quite over the anger, but I
Yeah.
think it's an idea. It's changing that negative thing to put something a positive spin. I love that. I think it's
I do
really a
too.
great idea.
I'm definitely gonna have to start trying that out.
Yeah, yeah.
Not really sorry, but I'm trying to be, and I
But
love you.
yes, and I love you,
Yeah.
and I think you're a great guy, and I love
Yeah.
your passion or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. So what if I'm not fighting with my husband right now, but we seem to be getting along, but we haven't really been intimate with each other? Is that a sign that we're moving forwards or backwards, or is that just kind of a season we're going through?
I think kind of both. I think we all have seasons, obviously. There's
Yeah,
times that intimacy can change. We've talked about that a little bit here.
yeah.
That's and knowing what your normal is for that season, I think is really important. But I don't think you should ever have a season where intimacy is not a part of it.
Okay.
Because I think that draws us together, that bonds us together. And I would say, unless there's something physical there, that even if it may not end in intercourse all the time, but
Yeah,
holding and cuddling and just getting
yeah,
the benefit of being close to each other. And I think when we don't do that, there's a void there. And so that would probably be a little bit backwards from that.
yeah.
And for some people, it would be a bigger deal than others.
So what if we just got married and we don't
Okay.
really know what our seasons are about? Like we don't really know this is what we're supposed to expect, or this has happened last year. How do we kind of know that it's a season or if we're just moving backwards or both? Are there certain
I
signs that we need to look out
Yeah,
for?
I think you gotta talk about it. I think
Okay.
you've got to decide. Okay, what does intimacy look like? Ask the husband, like if it's you and Boone. Hey, Boone, what does intimacy look like to you? What would you like that to be where we are? And then you share what what it would you would like it to look like, and then okay, where do you meet together there? Where do let's say so Ben is saying I want to be intimate 5 times a week, and you're saying 2 times a week, and say, hey, what if we just work for two and maybe 3 times or something like
Okay.
that? Or
Okay.
and also not only that, but I think you've got to say when are our best times? Sometimes just because you don't have kids doesn't mean you're not busy. And
Yeah.
so finding the time, and so sometimes people's schedules, and so just because you don't have kids doesn't mean that you've got all this freedom to be intimate all the time. And that because the season being busy, you may say, right now probably on the weekend is that's going to be when we have time to be intimate because we're just running crazy the rest of the week.
Yeah. So I know every marriage is a little bit different, and I know that we all have different signs, but what were some signs that you and Nancy faced when you guys were moving backwards in your marriage?
I think the big thing for us was when we argued and not resolve things,
Okay.
because then the same problem or something similar would come up again. It's like, oh my gosh, here we go again,
Yeah.
and we never had resolved it again. And so it's more frustrating and those kind of things. And so I think that was one of the things, times when we didn't feel like we were on the same page and we just had trouble getting there. And I think that was really not listening well to each other. I
Yeah.
think when we learned how to listen well, it was easier to get on the same page because I think both of us being type A wanted our way. And so we really weren't listening to the other one. It's like, okay, you just need to do it my way. And I was saying the same thing. And so then obviously we never resolved anything. And so that moved us backwards for sure.
How can you really, like, tell when you finally, like, resolve something? When when you actually put it in your rear view and you don't ever look back anymore, how do you know when it's finally resolved?
I think when it doesn't come up anymore, or if
Okay.
it come up, you're able to say, we resolved that. That doesn't need to take our time and
Yeah.
energy anymore. And I think it's got to be a win for both of you. It can't be just, okay, Boone wins and Laura
Yeah.
loses, or
Yeah.
it's got to be both a win. And so sometimes it's compromise and working together, but you both got to feel like we won on this thing.
Yeah. So other than seeking counseling, what else can we do if we feel that our marriage is moving backwards?
I think a lot of times I'll talk to couples about just having a restart, just say, hey, we have gotten off track. What if we get back on track? And each of you, if you can share, what you can take responsibility for. Because usually, if you get in these situations, you've both done some things that have
Yeah.
contributed to it. Maybe one more than the other. And then I think you just do some real basic things. You say, hey, let's start praying together. Let's pray for our marriage. Let's do a YouVersion plan. I think getting in a small group of people your age that believe the same way you do is so important because
Yeah.
I think that helps you realize that some of the things you're doing you may not like to do, but they're normal. And other
Yeah.
couples are struggling through the same things, and so you
Yeah.
learn and grow from each other. You just don't stay stuck with those things, And when you see something that's not going like it should, what do we need? How do we address it? And the more you get in that habit of addressing it and not just letting things just lay there, and then because they don't go away on their own, they just don't.
They definitely don't.
Uh-uh.
And then two more questions, and it kind of goes hand in hand. So, do you think that husbands need to work on specific things in their marriage to keep moving them forward?
Husbands are usually perfect, so they usually don't have a whole lot to work. Yeah, of course. I think for guys, I think where we get off, we do such a good job before marriage of pursuing our lives. I think continue to be intentional with them. I think to be empathetic. I think sometimes we don't understand some of our wives' feelings and emotions. So I think it really is our role to learn that or ask good questions so that
Yeah.
we can try to understand where they are and why they're there, so we know how to help them. And then I think just being kind. I've used that word a lot lately because I think we're in a culture that's not very kind. And I think it really stands out. And if you're going to be kind to somebody, it needs to be your spouse.
I completely agree with you. I was actually just talking to somebody earlier, and she was just saying that her husband has been so unkind to her for so long, she doesn't even know what it's like anymore. And that
Uh,
just that breaks my heart. I mean, that one person that she, decided to be in a marriage with and commit herself to is just not kind to her anymore. And that's so sad to me.
and I don't know why that happens. And I've seen it happen both ways. I've seen women do it to men and
Oh
men do
yeah.
it to women. And it's like, why are you married? I mean, why
Yeah.
did you get married? Did you just want somebody to beat up for 50 years?
Yeah.
Well, that's not
Yeah.
really what marriage is all about.
Yeah.
And so I think if people are watching this and you're kind of trapped in that, work it out. See what's
Yeah.
really wrong. It's usually not your spouse. It's usually something else inside of you, and you're
It
taking it out
definitely
on your
is.
spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so the last question that goes hand in hand with the last one, what about a wife? What do they need to do to keep their marriage moving forward?
I think of some of the roles for a wife of encouraging her spouse, I think there's nothing that means more to a guy, I think, than his wife encouraging him, admiring him, saying he did a good job on things. I
Yeah.
think praying for him, whatever it is, his job, his work, those kind of things, knowing his love language and doing it. And I think that, I think not being critical. That doesn't mean you accept everything he does, but instead of being critical and snide, you sit down and say, "Hey, this is kind of bothering me. Can we talk about it?" And you talk
Yeah.
things through with each other. Then you're becoming a team again. I think
Yeah.
any of those things that pull us apart, and all of a sudden we're just, playing some game with each other, is not going to be good for your marriage.
Yeah. That's such great advice, Dr. Kim. Thank you so much. And if you guys are having a hard time right now with your marriage and need a little bit of help moving forward, we actually have the online marriage retreat. It's officially open for early bird registration. You can sign up today, and I will add the link below this right when we get done. And if you use the code AwesomeMarriage10, you get 10% off. So make sure and check that out. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.